All right, Tide fans, welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. Back here with my two regulars, Jimmy Messick, Maurice Booth. Guys, hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good day.
Good.
I did.
Thanks for coming in early.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in
Thanks for having
early.
me again.
No scratches, nothing. I'm good.
No scratch. Clear as a bell.
Yes, I'm
duty calls.
No blemishes, huh?
That's right. So
good hair day.
Got to do a little work tonight. But look, guys, basically what we expected. Coming off a big win against LSU. I think we all called it. So before we get started, 2-minute drill from you, 2-minute drill from you. You get to go first. Your take on the game.
Pretty much as you said, we predicted. LSU is not very good this year, and I don't want to get some type of false sense of security because of how absolutely horrendous that train wreck is in Baton Rouge. But we'll have a little bit better challenge this weekend against Arkansas. I thought offensively we were clicking. Devontae Smith had one of those career nights. Good for him.
Incredible.
Mac looked pretty good. Najee looked really good. Defense, I got a little disappointed in although they didn't give up over 100 yards rushing, there were times where they did give up too many yards, and he was kind of dinking and dunking on them with the pass. It kind of made me unsure as far as we were talking last week about them getting better.
Right.
I won't say it was a setback, but it wasn't impressive altogether as impressive as I had hoped.
So before I go to Jimmy, so
Yes.
you're suggesting, are you saying that Arkansas is better than LSU?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I like it. Jimmy?
So this may be the spoiled Alabama fan coming out in me right now, but I mean, can you be disappointed in a 55-17 win over one of your biggest rivals?
But you're right. We talked about that before.
After we talked the defense up, I was really disappointed in the defense. Giving up 17 points, probably should have been more if it hadn't been for Mr. Anderson that blew up that fourth down play. And yes, it's Mr. Anderson now these days because he is a grown man now.
It is to you folks anyway.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed on that side of the ball. I mean, I really thought we gave up way more yards than I was expecting. Again, 17 points, which I'd have never thought on that side of the ball, again, as well as we'd played. But offensively, I think we're going to share some things later on about that offense.
But to be fair, the reason the defense looked so good the week before is because we were playing Auburn.
Well, you got a good point.
Yes.
So
I want 2 minutes from Sean. What's your takeaway?
Exactly what you guys are saying. I mean, a buddy of mine, like I mentioned a couple of times, Keith Jones, who I work with in the school system, said it really well. He was like, the offense was an A+, maybe, A-, maybe an A+. But the defense was maybe a B, and mainly and started out like a C in the first half, picked it up to maybe a B in the second half. But, I agree. There were some times where we just did not look like the defense that I've seen in previous games. We talked a lot about that. Dylan Moses on the one pass play that they scored on the touchdown. Mm-hmm. He's running to his area, which is what it looks like. And as he's running there, he points to the guy who's catching the ball.
Right.
And
coverage.
I'm a little confused about that. Now, was it his responsibility? Was he saying someone else was supposed to be?
You're not the only one that was confused. There were some DBs on that one. That was not his responsibility. He was taking the wheel route.
That's what I thought.
And there was a safety that was
supposed to come over the top.
Right.
I thought that. So, a lot of times we don't hear a lot about Dylan Moses. We don't, but again, we also have come back and said the fact that he's in there and he's putting everybody in position and other guys are making plays, may be his biggest role on defense. Now, the other touchdown, the running touchdown, I don't know if you guys saw the same thing I saw, but Josh Jobe steps into where the guy's running and just looks at him. I mean, he literally, the guy's in front of him, the blocker, but he didn't block him. He just looks at him. And I'm thinking to myself, it just didn't appear to be that aggressive, have that passion type of defensive effort. We saw him pick it up in the second half, but I mean, and I may be getting ahead of myself, but I agree. Arkansas is a better team than LSU, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I hope we don't do that against Arkansas because we may be in for a long night.
Could be.
And offensively, yes, it's exactly what we expected. You know, guys, do we technically have 3 potential Heisman candidates from one team?
I don't think it's potential. I think there
Yeah,
are.
it is, yeah.
I mean, I don't see how you can not include Mac Jones, include Devontae Smith, and include Najee Harris. I don't see how you can include them. I don't know that they're going to. And not just because I'm an Alabama fan, but as I watch, I mean, Kyle Trask is good, but that's all they do is throw the football.
They cannot run.
That's all they do is throw the football.
Right.
So his numbers better be good. And for the most part, when I've watched him play, he's always playing in the fourth quarter. You know, so.
Well, all you have to do is look at how many attempts he's had versus Mac Jones.
Right, that's what I was going to mention. Very good point. Much more attempts.
But to answer your question about the Heisman, I was reading up some and checking on some of those odds. And yeah, Mac Jones is still the favorite, actually tied with Trask right now as far as the odds go. But Smitty jumped in there finally. But Harris is not being mentioned. Now, I'm looking at like top 6, you know, what are their odds of actually winning. So at the end of the season and at the end of the day, I think Harris should, no doubt, get some love on that. But you're right. I think we'll have 3, top 8, top 6, top 5. I mean, it'd be crazy to think that we wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, so Maurice, to your point, I agree with you. I think Arkansas is probably a tougher opponent.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. I've been following Arkansas since the first game against Georgia, which was a really nice game. And I'll be the first to admit I made jokes on here about Arkansas last year and the beginning of this season because they really were a train wreck. And there were a lot of Arkansas fans and alumni that were not happy in the direction that the program was going. I mean, this is a far cry from the team that competed for national championships in the late 60s, 70s,
Right. That's
even
right.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
Only 8 or 10 years ago, they
Darren
were with the
McFadden
top.
and
They were in
those
the top
guys, yeah.
10. But this program was really headed in the wrong direction, and they hired some guy named Sam Pittman that I didn't even know was the offensive line coach at Georgia. And I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, because this wasn't, Frank Broyles used to run everything.
Right.
I'm like, who made this decision?
Right.
And he's going to, in my opinion, be SEC Coach of the Year.
I agree.
Players love him. They play their hearts out for him. He's a lot like Tom Allen at Indiana. He is just that much of a player's coach. And it will be interesting.
But let's get real, though. I mean, are they better than last year? Sure they are. But Missouri just hung 50 on them. So,
what's your point,
are we really saying that that's going to be a game?
You always have to steal my thunder.
I mean, are we really saying Arkansas is going to give us a game? I mean,
listen,
come on.
if you read any of the articles, the articles are saying don't bet on Alabama to cover.
Flat.
Well, I can see that.
Don't bet on Alabama to cover. And look, there's been times when we went to play Arkansas and Arkansas was terrible and we struggled for whatever reason, whether that's motivation, flat, come off a big win, whatever the case might be. Now, we've all talked about the fact that Nick Saban's probably one of the best jobs that he does is getting guys ready every week to play. I'm not worried, I'm not scared, but I do believe that Arkansas presents a tougher challenge. They run the ball decently. God, what's the guy's name? The quarterback for
Felipe Franks.
Felipe Franks that left Florida. He is a competitor.
He was out last week with bruised ribs. I don't know what his condition is right now. I would imagine that he will probably play, but yeah, he has the stature.
If he doesn't play, it makes a big difference.
It does.
Because he's a competitor.
Because the guy that played this past weekend was a true freshman.
Yeah.
But come on, I mean, our flat this year in this league is still way better than anybody else's.
So that's a great opportunity to take a quick break because that's where I was going. What does flat really mean? And so let's
I'll see if I can find flat on the point spread. Alabama minus 10 if they're flat. Sorry.
Let's take a quick break on behalf of Bob Inglis and State Farm. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Bobby.
What's up, Bob?
In life, some things just go together, like a burger and fries, and home and auto insurance from State Farm. So make it a combo. Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? Just call me, Bob English, or any of my experienced hometown team and find out how you could start saving today. It's just another way.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. We were talking right there about, being flat in Arkansas and they're a better opponent and et cetera. And yes, Jimmy, I do agree. Our flat is probably better than most teams right now anyway. Arkansas, they're 3-6. They're coming off a couple of tough losses. I read an article today that said that of their 3 losses, there 2 or 3 of them have been less than of their 6 losses. 2 or 3 of them have been less than 3 points, or 3 points or less. Mm-hmm. So they're scrapping. Like you said, they're playing for the coach. I think they get behind Felipe Franks. I think he does a good job of trying to lead them. But it's still Arkansas at the end of the day.
And it's on the road.
It's still Arkansas. But, Nick Saban says any SEC game on the road, you got to come and play because anything can happen and anybody can beat anybody. And I believe that. And as we've stated, I just think that he does a really good job of not letting the guys take a deep breath and relax because we know Florida's coming in the SEC championship game. And so, Jimmy, real quick, let's go to stats with Jimmy.
I thought you'd never ask.
So, sorry.
Tide fans, there's a couple of things I want to talk about this week. In addition to our team stats and individual stats, basically we're holding serve on the offensive side of the ball. We're still first in the league, either first or second in the league in every major category on the offensive side of the ball. We're still top 5, top 6 in every major category on the offensive side of the ball nationally. Defensively, again, we've moved up. I think I mentioned last week that we're moved up to the number 1 scoring defense. We're still 4th or 5th in some other areas as far as rushing defense versus passing defense, but we're still kind of holding serve there. A couple of things I want to point out. Right now, offensively, we are converting third down conversions at a little over 57%, which is 1-1, our first in the league and in the country, which is pretty astounding to me. And on the defensive side, we're always talking about, man, we don't ever get off the field. My gosh, how many freaking third downs these teams are going to convert? Well, right now, we're only giving up 38% on third down conversions, which is actually 6th and 51st. But still, that's still a big improvement from where it used to be.
Well, if you listen to Sheriff Taylor, he says we got a better chance of getting off the field on third downs on third and short than we do third and long.
And the sheriff says every week we suck. But anyway,
exactly, we do suck. So a couple of other things I want to mention. Since we're at the end of the season, it's award season. We have, of course, Mac, Devontae, and Najee. Actually, all are semifinalists for the Maxwell Award. Devontae is semifinalist for the Blitnikoff. Harris is the semifinalist for what's the running back award? Is it Doak Walker maybe?
Doak Walker.
Of course, Mac's a finalist, and right now not say finalist, but he's in the running for the Heisman. So man, it's just and I could continue on. Patrick Surtain is up for the Defensive Player of the Year as well as the Defensive Back Player of the Year. And so, man, again, we're having. It's really a phenomenal season.
A lot of accolades
overall.
on that team.
There ain't no doubt. 2 other things I'll mention real quick. One, that we have a chance to do this Saturday with a win that no team in the SEC has ever done in the history of the league, which is what?
10-0. 10-0.
Win more conference games than
10 conference games, because the most we've ever played has been 9.
That's what he said.
9 with the championship.
Yeah.
So we have a chance to break a record there this weekend with a win. And also something that happened this past weekend that has never happened in the history of Alabama football.
2 players with 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns.
Right, we've never had that happen in one single game. So
no applause, just those.
So anyway, so Tide fans, there you go. Just a few things to throw at you this week real quick.
Maurice?
Well, did we have a spinoff show here? I mean, kind of took over there.
Stats with Jimmy, you know how it is.
Yeah, I didn't know stats turned into an hour. But anyway, good job, Jimmy. That's fine. I mean, our numbers, although we are one of the best offenses in the country, we are not the best. We're not even the best in the conference. Ole Miss still holds that moniker. Again, let's go back and look at our competition. It's not to degrade the rest of the SEC, but it is really an unimpressive year outside of A&M, and we destroyed them. But what I'm fearful of is what happened exactly 2 years ago. We looked great during the regular season, crushing everybody, and we get to Levi Stadium in San Francisco, and Clemson beats the brakes off of us because we're not prepared or we haven't seen anything that really challenges us.
Right.
That's what I'm fearful of. Now, we will see a passing attack against Florida. Their running is atrocious. They have no running backs. So it will be interesting.
I was just telling somebody the other day, and I'll ask you guys, do you believe that a one-dimensional team will beat Alabama?
Absolutely not.
I just don't see it. I don't care. And make sure you understand, I believe Kyle Trask is really good. I believe Pitts, his huge big-time receiver, is really good. I believe Tony, his flanker guy, is and listen to me now, I'm not saying he's like Waddle, but he plays a role like Waddle. They try to get him the ball. He's quick. He's shifty. When he gets the ball in space, he's good. So I believe that they're a formidable opponent.
Yeah.
I do not believe a one-dimensional team is going to beat Alabama.
Problem is, they may not be what scares you the most in games like that. They come in as one-dimensional. You kind of let your guard down.
Right.
And
you prepare so much for the one.
They start doing sprint draws on you, throw in an option. Really, I mean, messes up your entire game plan or what you've been planning for. So who knows?
The flip side to that, Maurice, is if they're doing stuff like that, they're getting away from what they do well.
That is true.
I mean, so I always used to be that way when I was offensive coordinator and preparing, for teams. I didn't want to get caught up in trying to be different to fool them or whatever, because number one, how often does that work and what does it get you? Mm-hmm. Or do you just execute and focus on what you do well and beat them? So I hear you, and I think that that's a valid point, but I also think that they're not going to do a whole lot of that. I think they're going to try to do what they do well. They're going to let Trask throw it 1,000 times.
And to this point, like this past week we had 5 sacks, which is the most we've
starting
had.
To pick up.
Most we've had since last year when we played LSU. I think we had 4 against Auburn the week before. So, that could be. It's going to be. I'm not saying playing into our strength, but that defensive line is starting to get. I mean, those guys on the edge we talked last week. I mean, let them stand back there and try to throw it around.
It's going to be critical to be able to rush with 4 guys. To get some pressure with 4 guys.
So we're past Arkansas. I'm just asking.
Well, no, we're not past Arkansas.
In the words of Gene Stalin, if you don't think the next game's important, try losing.
I agree. I agree. But again, when you get into that, mindset for us, I mean, as we stated earlier, it's Arkansas, and I'm not trying to diminish. I think they're a good team. I stated earlier, I think they're better than LSU probably, but in the grand scheme of things. We're locked into the SEC championship game.
Right.
I mean, we're going. So.
I guess we'll talk about more of that next week, maybe.
Yeah, well, and also
tomorrow's
I mentioned, and we're going to take a break here in just a second, but I mentioned the statistic that I think is concerning Saban and Mac Jones and maybe Steve Sarkisian, and that is how flat we are. We were talking about being flat earlier. How flat we are coming out in the second half. And there was a statistic out there, I'll get you to look at it when we go to break, about our numbers in the last 4 games and what we've done offensively coming out in the second half. And it hasn't been very good. But so because we'll take a short break, we'll talk about that. But we're going to take a short break on behalf of Bob English and State Farm. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Enjoy the good times a little more with the right plan. As your State Farm agent, I am here to help you protect your dreams and loved ones with life insurance. With over 60 years combined State Farm experience, call me or any of my team to find out which options are best for you. Another way, we're here to help life go right.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Yes, Maurice, there is a game this
Yes.
coming weekend.
I'm sorry.
And it is against Arkansas.
Okay.
But we're not going to talk a whole lot about that because I don't believe it's going to be much of a game.
All right.
So
See ya.
at this
It's
point,
been
this
fun.
game, look, we got to get out healthy. I mean, our starters should maybe play the first half, unless for whatever stupid reason we're not beating them by 3 or 4 touchdowns. I just, man, we don't need to get anybody hurt.
Yeah.
Get them in, get them some reps, get them out, let the younger guys and
Let
the
Bryce
second team.
Young come in and throw a couple of picks.
So, I mean,
They say it
That's-
may be his last chance to play. This may be his
What do
this
you mean?
Saturday.
Last chance.
Maybe his
Oh, I'm supposed to
barring
say.
any injuries.
I see.
They're saying it may be his last chance to get some playing time because then you go to the SEC championship game, you go to playoff, hope potentially, and then
I'm with you now. I'm sorry.
yeah. So
I'm still dragging from last night.
I understand. Hey,
So-
you do what you got to do.
Exactly.
I was mentioning to you guys earlier, there's some concern about how we come out flat in the second half. And I looked at the break. We're averaging 3.8 plays on the last 8 possessions against Mississippi State, Kentucky, Auburn, and LSU.
How many yards are we getting on that .8 play?
Good question.
Okay.
Good question.
I'm guessing it's point something.
But 3.8 plays
You got a
on
point.
those 8 possessions coming out opening the second half. And I read today where Mac Jones says, look, we've got to figure that out because going forward, that's not going to work. You can't be flat. Jimmy, to your point, I do also believe that it has something to do with the fact that we're up 21 points or more. That probably has a lot to do with it. It just seems like we go out there and we're kind of lull. We don't score or we have to punt and we're like, okay, let's go ahead and do this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't – I hope that we do figure out a way. Mac Jones says, look, whether we've got to, run around and get the adrenaline going, get the blood flowing, whether the coaches have to change something up to get us going earlier, we've got to be ready because going forward we won't be able to do that.
You think about it, there's been times in the first halves of games, in games where we thought we would just score 100 points against teams where I don't know if it's Sark, which I'm certainly not throwing any shade towards him because I think he's the best OC out there.
So quickly.
But it's almost but it almost seems like we always kind of get in a funk somewhere, whether we go score quick and then we come back and like, dang, what was that about? And we've even talked about that during games. So whatever it is, I don't know, but you don't really notice that coming out of half because again, we're always up so big in my opinion.
I will add, though, Maurice,
Sean?
we are leading third quarter scoring 120-33.
Well, at least it's close.
So we just don't score in that first possession.
So if you think about it, we're really turning it on after those first possessions.
Like I've said before, has there ever been a time where our offense is walking out there and you're going, geez, I hope we score? We're thinking, all right, when are we going to score?
How many
Because
plays
it's
is it gonna
coming.
take? Yeah.
I don't mean to jinx it. It's the best offense
I
I've
think
seen.
that's a good point, Maurice. I mean, even in the Ole Miss game, where it was, back and forth.
I've yet to be worried.
I just wasn't concerned that we weren't going to score.
Well, I mentioned if you missed in our stats segment about the 3 offensive guys
I know where you're going with this.
up for the awards. I mean, where am I going with this?
I thought you were going to talk about the kicker.
No. Well, that too. I mean, he ain't missed a kick yet. So, but no, I mean, when you have 3 players on the offensive side of the ball at your skill position, all up for the same major award, and then the major award in their category, whether it be the best running back, best receiver, best quarterback. We talked
We've
about
even
last
got
week.
the best holder.
I mean,
that?
we have.
There is an award
right
for
now.
that,
I mean,
believe it or not.
they do rank offensive lines. I mean, we talked about it last week. So, yeah, I mean, I never worry about us scoring points. Never.
I think there's some confidence also. We're doing this without maybe the best athlete in the country with Jalen Waddle.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. Yes.
No, I said the best athlete in the country. I didn't say the best hair in the country.
Oh, well,
I said the best athlete.
Waddle, and if you remember, you go back to what Herb Street and Pollock said when Waddle got hurt, that this offense was going to take a step back. It kind of did, but it didn't.
Indirectly.
Because everybody else really gave, I don't say they had to step up. I think they were just doing, it's obvious now, you got to go to Devontae and Mechie a little bit more, and Najee runs a little bit more. But yeah, it's kind of, like you said, indirectly. And if he does decide, or if he is able to come back,
Right. I think Herb
Pick your
Street is
poison.
the guy that said it, and maybe I'm wrong about the person that said it, but what he said was, it's really not that they've skipped a beat. It's just the fact that, Alabama could take the top off with Devontae, with Mechie, and with Waddle.
Yeah.
Well, now they're just taking it off with Mechie and Devontae. So it's an indirect effect.
And dude, that's what makes what they're
doing so much
even better.
Yeah.
I mean, they know we're going to throw it to Smitty. They know we're going to throw it to Smitty.
If you listen to Coach O, he said we were doubling him.
I mean,
I
and he's
heard him, I
still
couldn't understand him.
wide open.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's still wide open like every time, it seems like.
Well,
and they know we're throwing it to
But
him.
listen, Jimmy, I'm even going to add to that and say even when he's not wide open, he makes a big play. The catch in the end zone, he wasn't wide open.
Right.
They were covering him. He just made a phenomenal catch.
And but that's on Mac too for throwing it where he could get up.
Well,
there
that's
and
what I was
get
going to say. Do you guys remember the dropped pass by Mechie running down the center of the field? He splits the
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been thrown
Perfect.
anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, it was a perfect throw, and Mechie didn't come down with it. It would have been a tough catch between two people, but
It hit him in the hands.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but people's hands are in the way, and two people are around him and probably bodying him up. That's a tough catch.
I say bench him. So.
I say
Hey,
I
I
think
think
the
that's
freshman
the
out there.
text that I got from Sheriff Taylor.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
sucks.
Exactly. Yeah.
But to your point, Jimmy, perfect throw. And I read an article today. It was the same exact route in the Missouri game, and Mac overthrew him. And in that game, Devontae Smitty said, "Just throw it up. Just throw it up." So he talked about that yesterday. He said he remembered him saying that, so he threw it to a spot, and Smitty went up and made a great catch. It'll end up being another Daniel Moore drawing or something.
And based on what you guys were talking about earlier, and we're expecting Arkansas to stop that and give us a game.
I don't think they'll be able
You
to.
always bring the show down, man. Be happy.
I don't think Arkansas can stop us, but I do believe Arkansas will score some points.
They'll score a little bit.
I think they'll score some points, which brings us to a great point in the show. Time for predictions.
I predict that, Jimmy, are those new shoes? They look like new shoes.
That joker's always got new shoes.
I'll tell you.
My shoe game is on point.
He is on point with the shoe
My
game.
shoe game is on point.
I actually think it'll be a little bit. What's the
We're
line?
at 31-point favorite.
It's 30
I'll
something.
take Arkansas and take the points in this one. I think to your point, I don't say flat, we pull people, don't want anybody hurt. Let's just take it easy. Let's get through this, and let me see what these second teamers can do. I think you're looking at something like 42-20, or they may even score again. Felipe Franks, when he's on, he's on.
He's good. He's a good player
But
and a competitor.
And there's a lot of times where he gets frustrated, but when he can settle down, he can make a play. So I think it's going to be something within.
We don't cover, but we win.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similarly thinking like that. I mean, if we do cover, I won't be surprised. If we don't cover, I won't be surprised. I hope that we're playing a lot of
Young guys.
backups in the second half. And you know how that can go. I mean, we can look like world beaters even with our second stringers sometimes. And then again, it's like, okay, what are these guys doing? So I wouldn't be surprised either way. I still think we're going to score in the 40s, and they might score 20, again, maybe late. So You have 40 something to maybe
And
20.
credit to Arkansas. Like I said, I've seen them a few times. They don't stop. They keep trying,
Yeah.
and they fight hard.
I think I don't think we'll cover. I think we'll bring some people. Now we're 7-2 covering, by the way.
Yeah.
We're 7-2 covering the spread. But
I
I don't believe we'll cover. I believe that we will score as much as we need to, 48 plus, maybe even into the 50s. But I think Arkansas will score a little bit.
Okay.
I think they have nothing to lose. It's their
Right.
last game of the year.
Yeah.
I think they'll score some points. I'm hoping that our defense shows up and says, no, that's not going to happen. That'd be great going in for confidence going into the SEC championship game. But I believe they'll score some. Again, like you said, come out healthy, get them out as quickly as possible, and get ready for Florida in the SEC championship game. So going to be fun to watch. 12 p.m. kickoff Eastern Standard Time.
Really?
Yep, 12 p.m. kickoff.
Man.
And in Arkansas, so should be a good ball game. So guys, we'll be right here again next week. Guys, you can watch us on channel 207 or check us out on our YouTube channel. But hopefully we'll be right here again next week talking about another Tide victory going 10-0. So see you next week, Tide fans. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.